Hello, welcome back to the channel. This is a channel where we give you reviews, playthroughs, unboxings. We generally like to talk a lot of bollocks, tabletop gaming in general. And in this video we're going to be talking about an area controlled dudes on a map game. We're going to be talking about Circadians Chaos Order, and in this game you will be trying to control different relics, or you'll be trying to move your marker to the end of the phone track that will allow you to win the game. So in this video we're going to be giving you a very brief overview of the rules. We'll be telling you what we do like, what we don't like, and whether or not Circadians Chaos Order is worth your time or bother to date and in the future. So remember, if you are new here, then please consider subscribing to this channel, hit the like button, all that YouTube bullshit, and we will see you after this. Bollocks! So, Circadians Chaos Order. How'd you play this game? So, Circadians Chaos Order is a dudes on a map area control game. The idea of the game is to be in control of all the different relic tokens at the end of a round, or you can win the game by moving your marker to the end of your fame track, right? This is a highly asymmetrical game. Every faction is going to have loads of different special abilities that apply to their faction only, and as such everyone's going to get a faction player board and another sheet of cardboard that's going to tell you all the different asymmetrical abilities you're going to get, right? So this game is divided into a number of rounds, right? The first phase of a round is going to be the set prices phase, yeah? In this phase, the player that has the flare gun is going to pick one of their pricing tokens and they'll put it on one of the action spaces on the side of the board, right? What this means is that you will get to take the action for free, and then all the other players in turn order will have the option of taking it, but they'll have to pay you a certain amount of energy to take that action. So each one of these actions has their own research tracks. This will determine what each action will give you when you take it, right? So the first action you can take is the research action. This will allow you to move your marker up one space on any of the action tracks, yeah? There's also what's called an auxiliary action. Usually you have to pay some gems for this, and if you pay the gems you'll get to take the auxiliary action. What you get is dependent on what action you take. So if you decide to move it up the research track, you'll pay a number of gems and you'll get extra research actions, yeah? So the next action you could take is the build action. You'll see that there's three different types of buildings. You've got foundries, outposts and strongholds, and if you want to build one of these, you first got to put a foundation on the board. Each one of your foundations is going to give you a tasty little benefit, and if you want to build a building you've always got to take the leftmost building of the type that you want to build, yeah? This will give you a specific amount of income in the gain income phase, a bit like Terra Mystica and Eclipse, where you take stuff off of your player board and it will reveal a benefit. So the next action is the harvest action. You take this action, you'll be able to gain energy and other resources from places that you control on a map, yeah? You'll also be able to place production tokens in different areas. These are these like little cog things, and these will give you extra benefits when you take this action. So the next action is the recruit action. This gives you recruitment points that you can spend to put more soldiers on the board. When you spend these recruitment points, you'll be able to move your little men along the board until they fall off the edge, and then you'll be able to stick them on your home base, right? You'll also be able to use the auxiliary action to deploy a leader. You'll get a leader card which will give you another special ability, and you'll even be able to upgrade your leader to turn them from a snowflake into a hard bastard. So next action is the movement action. This allows you to move. Funny old thing. You'll be able to use movement points to move to adjacent spaces. If you're playing with a 5-player game, there's tunnels. This means all tunnels are adjacent to each other. Where have we seen that before? I can't remember. If you move into a space that contains any other opposing units, you're going to have a bit of a tear up in the combat phase, yeah? So once everyone's taken all their actions, you'll resolve all the combat. The player holding the flare gun will go first, choose a space that they share with an opposing or with a number of opponents, and then you'll try and kick their ass. You'll take one of the combat wheels and you'll take one of your tactics cards if you've got any, and you'll stick it on a combat wheel, and then you'll rotate the combat wheel to a specific area that will give you some sort of benefit in combat. You might want to retreat. This section forces the faction who chose it to redeploy all remaining fighters. Any leaders they had in battle must be sent to their base, right? So this is for you bottling bastards out there. Or you might want to roll the old dice, right? And you'll have to choose one of these two sections. It'll cost you 1 gem to use, but it will allow you to roll 1 die. Dice add additional strength and sometimes shields to faction's combat value, right? So basically what you'll be doing, you'll put a card on the wheel and then you will augment the card's power with a selection from the wheel, right? The player that has the most combat strength will be the winner, and then you will resolve the actual combat. You'll add up all your attacks minus all your shields, right? And you'll lose a certain number of fighters, but once all the battles have been resolved, then you move into the gain income phase, yeah? Dependent on how many regions you control, you'll get a load of stuff. So for instance, if you have 0 to 2 regions, you'll gain 3 energy and 1 tactic card, or if you've got 6 or 7 regions, dungeons, you'll be able to upgrade an attribute or gain 1 gem, right? You'll also be able to get income from faction-specific abilities, and there's also income from leaders, attributes, and tactics cards. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, and buildings as well, yeah. So then you will go into the check relics phase. I promise you this is almost over. If no faction controls the current round's relic, so if you're on round 4, then if nobody controls relic number 4, it is removed from the game entirely, right? You'll do a bit of cleanup, and if in subsequent rounds somebody has control of all the remaining relics, or they reach the end of their fame track, then they will be the winner of Circadians Chaos Order. So what do we like about Circadians Chaos Order? So the first thing that we like about this game is that the pricing mechanism is actually quite novel. Not only are you faced with a choice where you get to choose the action that you take for free, you also get to influence the actions that other people take, in the sense that you might want to price somebody out of an action that they desperately need, or you might want to charge people extra energy that will fund your subsequent actions, right? This is a really novel and interesting mechanism that sort of reminds us a little bit like the Puerto Rico thing, where you're going to be taking a role and every other player gets to take that action associated with that role, but it's not going to be as strong, yeah? This sort of flips that on its head, and yeah, it's quite an interesting mechanism. So the second thing that we quite enjoy about this game is that it constantly rewards you with stuff. You're going to get rewards from the main board. You're going to get rewards from your buildings that you build. You're going to get rewards from your leader cards and the foundations that you build. It's constantly giving you stuff, and it always feels like you're progressing in some form or another. You never feel like you're getting bogged down in a quagmire of bullshit. So we love games that give you lots and lots of stuff, yeah? So the next thing that we really like about this is that there's 2 ways to win the game. You can go down the route of trying to control all the relics on the map, get involved in a load of combat, or you could just focus on your innate narcissistic tendencies and try and increase your fame, yeah? And not only that, but the fact that the relics get taken off the board each round means that there's a built-in end to this game. Don't get me wrong, this is a long, drawn-out game, but you know that it is going to end at some point, yeah? It's not just going to keep going and going and going for eons and eons and eons, right? So yeah, the fact that there's 2 different ways to win this means that it's not going to go on forever, thankfully. So what don't we like about Circadians Chaos Order? So the first thing that we don't like about this is the theme. It's forgettable, isn't it? I've no idea where this come from, what the theme's all about. In fact, a mate of mine, when he saw this, he said, "What the fuck is this? Is it Battlefield Earth, the board game?" So yeah, I've no idea who the factions are in this. Maybe it's tied to some sort of comic IP, I have no idea. Yeah, and really, the sort of theme lets it down because it's not based on anything. I know a lot of other games like Cybernet aren't based on anything. It doesn't evoke that same sense of world building, yeah? The theme falls flat and it just sort of disappears when you play in a game, and that is never ever good. So the second thing that we don't like about Circadians Chaos Order is it seems like most of the mechanisms in this are pinched from other games. As we've already mentioned, you've got the take off and reveal aspect that you find in Terra Mystica. You've just got bog standard area control where you're going to have a scrap on a hex with an opponent. You've got the combat wheels that you find in games like Civ, right? And you've got the asymmetrical abilities that you're going to find in games like Sidereal Confluence and all that sort of stuff. When we're playing this, it just felt like I was sort of looking through a window watching other people play all these other different games. Do I really want to be playing a game that amalgamates all of the mechanisms from all these variety of games, or do I just want to play these individual games and get 6 or 7 different experiences? Yeah, and the answer is probably the latter. So the final thing that we don't like about this game, and we couldn't be bothered to go into this in the actual rules explanation because it is a bit of a mindfuck, and that is that the asymmetrical abilities are badly organised. This game is a bastard to teach because of the asymmetrical abilities. I mean, there's loads of them. It's impossible to teach this to new players, and even when you play this a few times, you're still going to be forgetting what all the different asymmetrical abilities are. For instance, the Circadians have got this thing called a dropship, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fucking paragraphs telling you, 9 paragraphs telling you what the bloody hell you got to do with it, yeah? It just puts people off. When you play this, you hand this sheet to somebody and they're like, what the fuck? Have I got to remember all this crap? You're like, yeah. And they're like, fuck it. You know, the game is already on a downer, yeah? There's 6 different factions in the game. There's just too much going on, and it doesn't even tell you on these cards what action they're associated with. It should have had the icon from the action board listed on there so you at least get some indication of what ability is used when, yeah? So whilst I'm in favour of asymmetrical abilities, there's just too much going on and it just bogs the game down, and you're going to have people saying, oh, I should have done this or should have done that, can I take it back? And you're like, no, and it just causes aggro. So on this occasion, the asymmetrical abilities are more like a hole in the head than a pain in the arse. So to summarise, is Circadians Chaos Order worth your time and bother today and in the future? So we are going to say, no, I'm not saying this is a bad game. This is clearly a well thought out game that's been play tested a lot. The designers have obviously taken their time and crafted a well-oiled machine out of this. However, every time I've played this, I'm always thinking, why aren't I playing something else? Why aren't I playing Scythe? Why aren't I playing Terra Mystica? Why aren't I playing Eclipse? The theme in those games is infinitely better. Okay, maybe not Terra Mystica because they're basically in the theme, right? But I'm just thinking, why am I playing the itty-bitty mechanisms from all of these games in this game when I could go and play that game that day, that game that day, that game that day? So there's too much familiarity with other games. There's a meaningless theme that doesn't give me anything. And if you couple that with some extremely tedious asymmetrical abilities, then it renders this game just a little bit meh. So I don't know, I'd play Scythe any day of the week instead of this. So there you go, that's Circadians Chaos Order. Remember, if you're new here, then please consider subscribing to this channel, hit the like button, leave a comment and all that bullshit, and we will see you next time.